this content is for kids.
It's not for kids.
Isn't that what I said?
No, it's not for kids. If you are 13 years or younger, this is not for you. Do I have to kill somebody in order to actually make that point across?
No, man, you don't have to kill
Wait
no
a
one.
second.
Oh, no.
When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings, everyone. If you could see the video quality, it's terrible. But we don't have to worry about the video quality because they'll keep freaking flagging our shit.
Yeah, I don't like it when my shit gets flagged.
So instead of that, we're coming to you via podcast as we hit the last part of our Versus Awards nominees.
Yes, the numbers, I don't know. I'm going to pretend I know which numbers these are, but they're the last 21.
So yes, this is your last chance to vote. I'm going to try and have this up tonight. Matter of fact, while we're doing our vlogcast, I'm probably going to be running the editing for this while we're speaking and having it uploading at the same time.
Okay.
It's because I want y'all to be able to see this, because those of you who are voting, and if you haven't got a ballot, ask me or Jake for a ballot, or ask somebody from the Inside Movies Galore group, ask a friend who knows us. We'll get you a ballot because I want a lot of votes. We're probably not going to get but a handful of votes.
But we want some.
We want lots of votes. We've got one ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even fully filled out. I asked him, please fill out the full ballot. And he's like, no, because I haven't seen anything in those categories I didn't fill out.
That's fine. If you haven't seen anything in a category, skip the category. But you've still got several days to try and knock out at least one in each category.
Do Friday.
Yes. Okay.
So, not hard to do. Filling out a ballot literally takes minutes.
Right.
And just send it in. I'll have mine in.
Mm-hmm.
Jake will have his in.
And there's 2 categories everyone should be able to do, even if you don't have time for films. Because, let's say 5 categories you can do with minimal time. Because with live action short, with animated short, with documentary short, and with original song, technically, you're looking at short films. Or the song, you can just stream the song if you can find it audio. And poster cover design, all you gotta do is dig up the poster and have a look.
So with that being said, we're gonna move on because again, it's we want to get this done quickly. We want to make this an easy enough thing for you to digest. There are 3 other parts to this. This is part 4, but we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna move forward, and you all are gonna hear about it. And Jake's gonna start us off with our first one.
Yes, I'm gonna start us off with a movie that fared a little better with the Oscars than with us, and I'm frankly disappointed because I really enjoyed the film. And that is Emerald Fennell's Promising Young Woman, which was up for, I think, 6 Oscars, including Best Picture and Director, but we didn't quite go that far, but we did give it 2 of the nods. Fennell herself for Original Screenplay. And yes, I will say this is a relatively original screenplay. It's essentially a revenge film of sorts, but it's also a weird, like it's a revenge film / romantic comedy. It's a weird kind of hybrid. And stars Carrie Mulligan in an Oscar nominated, and we are nominating her for actress. Mulligan is a very gifted actress, and I really do think she brought her A game to this role. The performances overall in the film were solid, but she did above and beyond. And I really do think, she definitely deserves this nod, I think. And I'd go so far as to say she has a decent shot with this one. The screenplay nod is harder to call. Honestly, I thought this film was a strong contender for use of music in film. It was a strong contender for costuming, production design, a number of different things. But in the end, it's got these two going for it. What's your take on it?
Well, you can get it physically, and I have it physical. Matter of fact, it went on sale not long ago, so it was pretty cheap when I got it. And you can rent it for $5.99 if you want to do that. This actually, we have another film on this list that's got a lot of similarities to this one, so it's going to be interesting when we get to that one.
In some ways.
In some ways, but a lot of things kind of have some interesting parallels, which to me was interesting when I watched that film. This one, I guess it's one of those that you don't have to like to know it's good, because I didn't like it. But it was good. Very well acted. Very well portrayed. Emerald Fennell definitely deserves her nomination for original screenplay. And Carrie Mulligan truly did deserve... I think she won Best Actress.
Nope.
No, she didn't?
She lost to Frances McDormand.
Oh, Frances. Okay, she should have won over Frances McDormand.
Yes.
I know you feel like that was a strong... part, but I don't think it was as strong as this.
Well, I don't either, and I didn't submit McDormand in my 6 choices. I did not submit her. She was submitted, but only by 1 or 2 people. But a lot of people submitted Carrie Mulligan. She was kind of universally seen as
really good.
Yeah, she did.
So I will give her that. And but next is probably one that should have gotten all the acting nods. And should have gotten my costume design nod. I debated putting it higher as a joke, but I decided not. I kept it serious, which is Psycho 8, which has a Best Picture, and it wasn't just me that put it up, I believe, and Best Low Budget. I know I didn't put it up alone for low budget.
No,
feature.
you did not. Several people submitted for low budget feature, but yes, I think there were 2 or 3 who put it up for Best Picture.
So Psycho 8 can also be gotten on physical, and it can be rented for $2. And it is truly worth the watch. If anything, the rental, because $2 is worth the price of entry for Psycho 8.
Yeah.
It is this one is what I look of and I think of as low budget film of the year. It is just hilarious.
It's batshit.
It is batshit insane. It's about this woman who's obsessed with apes. She wants to be the next Jane Goodall. And you've got this psycho ape who's running around killing people with bananas. And a guy who's chasing after them. And they kind of mix it between the Psycho 8 being the villain and kind of an anti-hero. And I don't know, this thing is just crazy. And Dave showed me that they're doing a sequel. And
the actress actually goes by, I don't know what her official name is, but she goes by the stage name Kansas Bowling. I mean, that's just a crazy name.
She's done some Troma work. And there's actually some that have some Troma alumni in this. So there are some that have some decent stuff. And Psycho Ape is just a fun film to watch.
It is that.
And
it is that.
It's got a good shot for a low budget feature in my opinion. Best Picture, not so much. Unless, depending on who votes, I guess.
I think based on what I've heard so far, it does have a strong shot at low budget feature because it was widely liked in the group.
It was a fun
Best
film.
Picture, hell no.
Did you like it?
I thought it was entertaining, and it was nowhere near the top of my list for the year. It rated much higher than the next 2 films and slightly lower than the one that follows them, but it was interesting.
Now, I will say that so I think we watched it together. You, me, and Forrest actually watched it together when he visited.
I do believe so.
And it was kind of fun. Just sit down with a group to watch something crazy like this. It's a fun one to watch with friends.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna move on to another, which could have been up for low budget feature.
Surprisingly wasn't.
Surprisingly wasn't. Up for original song, which is Return to Splatter Farm. The Return to Splatter Farm theme by James Kelly and Greg Behan.
Mm-hmm.
It can be gotten on physical, like I have, or you can watch it for Tubi.
I believe the performance is it the Hub City Stompers? Yes.
And I don't know. It's a fun tune. It really is. It's very catchy. And Return to Splatter Farm is a sequel to the Polonias when both brothers were still around. They did. Splatter Farm was one of their big ones, shot on video horrors that got out. This one is probably the closest to shot on video horror that you could see currently to this day. And it really was a good film. I know I put it up for low budget, but I think it got voted out over other things. And but it was really good. I thought it was a great, basic thing. It's about these people who go back to Splatter Farm and they get splattered. I think I also put Kyle Rappaport up for cameo, but I put him very low on that list. So
right,
because he did pretty good getting killed in that.
Did he? I feel like he might be. I know he's credited on the film, but there was someone that you nominated that IMDb listed it as archival footage. And I can't remember. What role did he play in this one?
What, Kyle?
Yeah.
Kyle played one of the zombies, and he also played a camper that was there and a flashback on the film. But it was not from the original film. This was filmed. I know for certain because Kyle showed me the footage while he was getting it filmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so that's good to know. But yeah.
But we did get another one on low budget feature. But before that, what do you think about Return to Splatter Farm's?
The song is catchy. It's nowhere near on the same level as the other nominees, I think. And I did not care too. Well, I had mixed feelings about the film. Overall, I found it moderately entertaining, but more so than I would have expected from a film called Return to Splatter Farm.
Yes.
It definitely and thankfully was nowhere near the gore fest I expected originally.
Oh no.
But there definitely were some nasty scenes that I did not watch that closely. And the biggest thing though is I had very mixed feelings about certain aspects of the production were very uneven. Some of the acting was very uneven, but some of it was actually pretty good. But I had very mixed feelings about the ending. And that actually, I think, brought it down. What the choice of does it rate above or below the very excellent Mr. Dundee, the ending made that choice for me. Let's put it that way.
Well, let's go to another one that I know the ending really left you happy, which is Sebastian's Unholy Flesh, which is a contender for low-budget feature. Dakota Ray directing. So we've got some pretty cool directors up here. And but it can be got on physical, or you can watch it on YouTube. Now, this one is a piece. It is an art piece. You really have to be a certain kind of mindset. The best thing I can tell you about Sebastian's Unholy Flesh is you should check out my review of the film. I actually go fairly into depth with it. I utilize video clips. It's one of my better reviews, I think. And it's a better way of explaining why I like the film. I'm fascinated with his work because he really does dissect some of the lowest of the low when it comes to the poor, the depraved of the world. This one is his first foray into technically fantasy. so to speak, or at least that's how he told me it was. And so there's a little bit of supernatural involved this time around.
A little bit?
And so it's more of an art poetry piece that has some semblance of plot to it. A lot of monologues. But that's the typical of his work. I have not seen a lot of his early work, but I know that his later work definitely it's not that different. But all of them have their keys. I really like the style. I really like the depth of it, and one can definitely look at this and say that yes, there is some artistic value in this, but how much they place that value depends on the viewer.
Well, yeah. This one bothered me. Bothered me very, very much. Now, I mentioned with Splatter Farm that music was a redeeming factor, and I will say right up front, the music in this was quite good. I was kind of digging it at first, like before I really knew exactly where they were going with the film. I was really digging the music. And the camera work, the use of lighting and whatever was intriguing. It was very different, and I will admit it's a very distinctive looking film, and I will give them props for that. But obviously he knows a lot more about Dakota Ray and his work than I do. This was my first time seeing one of his films, and to my mind, and you can only imagine what some people would think if I were saying this. I can think of a couple of family members who would have been downright scandalized.
Show it to your brother.
Oh, dear God, no. But anyway, to my mind, whether or not Mr. Ray was attempting to give a full-throated interest in Satanism or things of that nature, it comes across that way. And it almost struck me as the faith-based film for an anti-Christian. And that troubles me. I'm not strongly Christian. I'm not strongly religious. But I have that upbringing where I see a film like this and it makes my skin crawl. And I actually rated this even lower than Death Toll at 3 as a result. It's not that it's a bad film per se. It just really did not do it for me.
So what do you think its chances are for, obviously not for you, but as a whole?
From what I've heard overall from the group, it might have a shot at low budget. But I really think Psycho Ape is going to trounce it easily because you are far and away the strongest defender of this film. Yeah. And I don't know that the rest of the group would be that crazy about it.
Low budget feature is one of those categories I'm going to have a hard time with. Mm-hmm. So it's just going to be interesting. So let's see. Last one for me for a little bit, which is Sonic the Hedgehog. I was
obviously targeted at the same crowd.
I was very reserved about putting this up, but ended up doing it anyway. And I wasn't the only one, I believe. But it is on physical. Mm-hmm. It can be rented for $2.70, and it's also on Hulu. Mm-hmm. Jim Carrey for supporting actor as Dr. Robotnik, and Ben Schwartz for voice actor for Sonic the Hedgehog. Mm-hmm. And I got to give them a little bit of a shout out for the fact that they actually listened to fans. Mm-hmm. They took what was an abysmal looking Sonic and they changed it to be a little bit more like the video game. And it was a decent film. To me, it wasn't much better than films like Hop, but Jim Carrey really did improve upon this to make it worth a watch. And now they have a sequel. And you saw who's up for Knuckles, right? Who's voicing him, right?
No.
Oh, Roland himself from the Dark Tower.
Oh, Idris Elba?
Idris Elba is voicing Knuckles.
Who's playing Miles in this one?
We're not sure.
Tails, I mean.
Tails was... now, they did have like a stinger at the end of the first film where they had the original voice actor who did his voice in the games. So that might be the way that they come back for, but it's hard to say.
Hard to say.
But this one surprised a lot of people with how well this one did.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think Jim Carrey really deserved that nod.
I know you pushed hard for that one, and that was probably all you. I know we both voted for Ben Schwartz for that. And Schwartz did do an excellent job as Sonic. I think he really did. It's a good example of how voice acting is not necessarily limited to animated films, and it doesn't need to be. I liked Carrey a lot in the film. He has given much better work in the past, but he really went all in on this role.
Yes, he did.
And when he really goes all in, it can be
He
fun.
hasn't gone all in on a part for a while.
Right.
He's been kind of detached.
Either
mentally.
detached or he's been trying to do more
Serious
reserved, which he can do. He
Yes.
can be excellent.
I always think The Majestic is one that people don't talk about.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was much better than its rep. Or I don't even know if it has much rep. People just forgot about it.
Exactly.
But, so this one, I don't think Carrey has much chance there, but he might. I do think Schwartz has a chance, although the next film is probably going to provide very stiff competition in that category.
It's going to give competition a lot of places.
Exactly. So next up, we have the film that was as good as Clementine, according to this group. The one film that could stand toe-to-toe with Clementine.
All right.
And actually is the only other one that's up for 9 awards. Which, what a pairing. We have a film that did much better with us than it did with the Oscars, which was Soul, the Disney Pixar film that sure as hell should have been up for an Oscar for Best Picture.
Oscars are biased.
Jeez. And they didn't even friggin' have 10. You know.
This is a good reason for these awards.
Right.
This movie alone is a good reason for these awards.
So, and just to give you an idea, we have unfortunately, this one, and Mo, insisted on scrapping the one category that this one won in a walk. But we have 4 new categories that this film is up for, plus 5 existing ones. So, Soul is a film about a jazz musician, played by Jamie Foxx, who lands a plum gig working playing with a very, very gifted musician that he is a big fan of. He is a aspiring musician / music teacher who really isn't putting his all into the teaching because he wants to be a star and whatever. And he gets this great gig and promptly walks down in a manhole and dies and goes to the afterlife. And he thinks it's a mistake, obviously, and wants desperately to get back to Earth. And he ends up hooking up with a young soul who, what was it, 23, I think was her. She was known by a number. Who's played by Tina Fey, who is a soul who's been around for a long time and refuses, it turns out, to go to Earth. Refuses to go. And they somehow wind up paired up together. And then, in a weird bit, they end up, she in his body and he in the body of his cat. And they have to get that sorted out. And it's a very fun, inventive film that has some very deep bits to it, and really does get into adult territory in a way that most people knew Pixar could do, but a lot of people still didn't want to admit that they could. And now they kind of have to, because this is not really a movie for kids in any measure. But anyway, Soul is up for Best Picture, naturally. Pete Docter, Mike Jones, I think that is supposed to be, and Kemp Powers are nominated for Original Screenplay. Docter and Powers are nominated for Director. We also have a nomination for Sound. And we're going along, even though it's a slight fudging of the rules, we're following the Oscars fudging of the rules, where they allow Jon Batiste to share an original score nomination with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Technically, Batiste did the jazz pieces, Reznor and Ross did the score, but all together they've got a nice original bit of music there. And the new categories, of course, use of music in film. This is the kind of film where that's like a no-brainer. Animation in film, because, yes, it's quite gloriously animated. And Jamie Foxx is up for Best Actor, Best Voice Actor, and Tina Fey is up for Best Voice Actress. So quite a bit going on here. If I were to go based on submissions we got and based on overall where I'm going to be voting and what I've heard from people and whatever, this one is one of the strongest contenders to win Best Picture.
Oh, yeah.
It's a strong contender for screenplay, a strong contender for voice actor. Probably not going to win director, I would imagine. And for various reasons we'll get to in a minute, maybe not on sound. But I think original score, use of music in film and animation could all be potentials.
Yeah.
And Tina Fey as voice actress could be a potential. So the film has a lot of potential, let's put it that way. And it is available physically. I own a copy, and also on Disney Plus.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm not going to go any further than what you said. I think that's got about there. It's an excellent film. It is a strong contender for Best Picture. And strong contender for animation in general. So Pixar is just it's the king of animation, really, when it comes to this.
I know we have one of our member who refuses to do anything to do with Disney, but I think most of the other people around
legally.
Yes, let's put it that way.
Legally.
Okay, so next up we have a film that's nominated for 7 awards. It was an Oscar nominee for 6, and I think we ended up nominating it for those 6 awards plus 1, actually, which is kind of strange that this one did not get a use of music in film. But anyway, next up is a film that is an Amazon Prime original that is honestly the main reason I signed up for Prime. And it is a flippin' incredible movie called Sound of Metal. Actually, I think these two, Soul and Sound of Metal, I think were my top 2 films of the year. So this one is nominated, as it was at the Academy, I believe, for Best Picture, Supporting Actor for Paul Raci, Actor for Riz Ahmed, Director... Did Darius Marder get a director nod? I don't think he did, so that's different.
That's probably the one out, yeah.
No, there's another one that's out. So there was one difference. Well, maybe I'll think of it. Sound and editing, and the one that I knew was added was Olivia Cooke as supporting actor. You ever nominated for Sound of Metal? Okay, that makes sense.
Well, she is, but yeah.
So anyway, so the basic gist of this we've talked about before, but Riz Ahmed plays a recovering heroin addict who is a drummer in a heavy metal duo with Cook is the guitarist and vocalist for the group. And they're also a couple, and they tour around the country doing these performances. And he is horrified one day to realize that he's going deaf. And music is his salvation. It's what keeps him clean. It's what keeps him going. And finally, in desperation, she kind of insists on him going to get help dealing with his loss of hearing, and he ends up in a home run by Paul Raci's character that is a home for deaf people. And he, life-changing stuff ensues, right? But it's a wonderful film, phenomenal use of sound in this movie, and it did end up winning the Oscar. If there's any justice in the world, this would be the film to beat. I'm just not sure how many people in our group are going to actually watch the damn thing. Same thing, Riz Ahmed probably should have won Best Actor, but he lost to Hopkins. I would have been fine with Boseman beating him, but Hopkins, that's a little iffier.
Debatable.
I think Paul Raci did win, didn't he? Which was...
I don't know who won supporting actor.
I can't remember, but Raci, I thought, gave probably the best performance of the year in any category. He was just incredible. Again, a lot of this film's chances...
Daniel Kaluuya.
Oh, right. He freaking lost to someone who wasn't even in a 2020 film. But anyway, this is a really, 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 really solid film. Again, if there's any justice in the world, Paul Raci will win, and the film will win for sound. But I don't know how many people in the group will watch it. Hard to say.
I think that its chances will depend on how many people see it. I agree. It is a contender for Best Picture. Paul Raci is a contender for Best Actor if it is. And if anything, the sound and editing will be the highest things. Though I am not... Riz Ahmed, I meant. Paul Raci is not my choice for supporting actor, but I can understand. But again, it's really all about who sees it. At the end, it is one that should have done better than it did. And if gosh, what was his name? Chadwick Boseman did not die this past year. I would say Riz Ahmed is by far the best in the Best Acting category. The only one that I wish could have gotten in was the actor for The Mauritanian, which I believe... Was that one disqualified?
No, it was a 2021 release, but it was in contention, which was kind of some bullshit. But it got disqualified for 2021's awards because it was in contention for this one.
So, but that's the only one lead I would have considered on par with Riz Ahmed, tell you the truth.
Rahim, he was good.
Because he was an amazing force, and it's sad that he's kind of being left out of it all. But, moving on.
Next up, another film that got kind of left out of it all. The critics loved it, but most of the awards shows kind of left it over. This is the other film in which an established older white dude played a man losing his mind to dementia. There were a lot of films this year that touched on dementia. There were a lot of them. But whereas The Father was very stagey, was very theatrical and dramatic and whatever, Supernova was a much quieter film. It was a much quieter film. You could be forgiven for overlooking it, but I personally enjoyed it immensely. It's a very sad film, a sad but also kind of hopeful film, wherein Stanley Tucci, a criminally underrated actor, by the way, plays a man who is suffering from dementia. He's still kind of in the early stages, but so he still has control. He's still, but he desperately does not want to lose control. And he sets out on one last road trip with his life partner, who's played by Colin Firth. And whereas Tucci plays sort of a stoic kind of, I'm making peace with this the best I can, with lapses to show his faltering, Firth basically spends most of the film in various stages of grief. Like, he is grieving for the loss. And I really, truly felt that both of them were at the top of their game. They both gave phenomenal performances. And I actually think Tucci did a better job in his performance than Hopkins did. I really do think that. But I actually thought Firth did even better. So I nominated both of them. But by the calculus of everything that we did, only one got in, which was Colin Firth. He is up for Best Actor. Again, I really, really doubt this is going to get seen by enough people to actually win. It was your last one, wasn't it?
Yep,
that you
last
watched?
one I saw.
And I don't know who's going to bother watching it. I thought it was a wonderful film. I really enjoyed it. It's a Hulu film, although you can apparently rent it on where did you find it?
YouTube and Amazon.
And Amazon. Okay.
Pick your poison.
Right. I did see it for rental. I did see it for rental on Amazon. Now that you mention it. But yeah, I thought this was kind of an 11th hour watch for me too, because I wanted to see it. I really think both actors need more praise than they typically get. And like I said, good solid performances. I just hope they get seen.
Colin Firth has stiff competition.
Yeah.
It's a good film. Very much looked over, which is another reason why I think that he's not likely to get it, because I don't think I think very few of the voters are going to have seen this.
Right.
Out of all of them, this is probably one of the mains films that's going to be harder for them.
Which one would you have picked if you had put one for first?
I mean, they're both on even par. I mean, I do think that both did about even to me. I mean, Anthony Hopkins' role was more dramatic.
Yes.
And I think that really is what edged him out at the end. Of course, then again, who knows? Half the Academy may not have even seen Supernova.
Probably.
So I'm going to briefly come back to us as we talk about a short film for a short film documentary called The Speedcubers, which was on the short list for the Oscars, but didn't quite make it.
Right.
Netflix documentary about these individuals. And yes, it is a competition where they solve Rubik's Cubes.
Yes.
And
in frighteningly fast.
But it has a lot of cool things. It's it touches on autism spectrum, which is why I think it really is worth watching. You get to see a lot of interesting things, meet a lot of interesting people, and it holds a lot of good to it. It's very uplifting in many ways. It's probably one of my favorite documentaries. It's probably the one I would most likely watch again. Because a lot of these documentaries you watch once and you're like, I'm not sure.
I will never watch The Hunger Ward again if I can help it.
So, but this is one that I might actually watch again because it was kind of enjoyable.
It was kind of fun.
So I don't know what its chances are, but still, you never know.
It's what, 40 minutes?
Who knows? For all I know, it could just be the two of us voting on short films, but hopefully not.
Was it 30 or 40 minutes?
It was close to the feature, but not quite.
Yeah, so it's still not a long film. And it's on Netflix, which means it's easy for those of you that have Netflix.
Very delightful. You should watch it.
Very good. Actually, that might be a good one to pop on right after you watch If Anything Happens, I Love You. Nice little one to balance it out.
I've watched that 3 times. But that one is also very short.
Yes, it is.
Blessedly short.
You can watch both of them, and it's basically a feature, but a short feature. Okay, so a slightly longer feature. We have the Chris Nolan film Tenet, which came out to a fair bit of fanfare as theaters were starting to reopen last fall. It was supposed to be one of the big summer releases. And then, so we had all these months to build anticipation. And then we watched it and then we were all like, what the hell? But basically, so Tenet is a very weird, trippy sort of espionage thriller
Yeah.
that is so dense and hard to parse on first viewing that it's not that thrilling. And maybe you need to go back and watch. Supposedly,
like
you
a lot
need
of Colin Firth films.
Colin Firth.
Not Colin Firth, sorry.
Some Colin Firth films, but actually, one Colin Firth film that had tons of praise that I had a similar reaction to was the remake of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Yeah. But so this one did finally come out. It had a decent theatrical showing. It's already well established on physical. It's on HBO or HBO Max or whatever.
Yeah.
We have it nominated for, I would have thought it'd be up for a few more, but it is up for visual effects, and it's up for one of our new categories, best stunt work. And I will admit, it deserves both of those nods. It is a visually impressive film.
As Nolan films are.
Yes, they are, yes. I would say perhaps it might have been a good shot for editing or cinematography. It really had a shot at production design, and I'm a little surprised it didn't grab that. But it's not a bad film either. I was underwhelmed. Most of his films I can watch and really get into them on the first go round, and this one just not so much. He kind of set a trap for himself though, because Following is a weird outlier. I've only seen it once, and it was a weird ass creepy film. But the film that really put him on the map was Memento. Mm-hmm. Memento set a trap. It was like, where do you go from there?
You've heard about the new release of Memento. It's coming out when they do the 4K. No. That they're going to have a cut of the film played chronologically.
That better not be the only cut.
Well, no, it's as a special feature.
It'd be kind of fun as a special feature.
It'd be a neat thing to see it like
but
that.
But Memento is freaking awesome. But anyway, well, that's neither here nor there. I do think this one probably has a pretty solid shot at least one of these awards. If nothing else, it's likely to be one a lot of our group has seen. But I don't know. What's your thought on that?
Even if they don't see it, it's possible that Nolan's name might carry it.
Right.
And maybe not for stunt work, but definitely for visual effects. I really feel like if Nolan's name wasn't attached to this film, it wouldn't have gotten the hype it got.
Right.
But that's just my opinion. I was not as impressed by it. It was very visually impressive, but there were more visually impressive films.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So next up, we're back to Netflix. We've got another Netflix original, a film that going into the award season, a lot of people thought was going to be the movie to beat. And I think it did end up getting 6 Oscar nods, including Best Picture.
Psycho 8.
Obviously. No, it's the Trial of the Chicago Psycho 8.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah, so the Aaron Sorkin written and directed film Trial of the Chicago 7 is a film that I personally really enjoyed. I thought it was a really, really, really solid film. But it was an interesting one because when I went in to start doing the nominations, I found that it kept getting bumped off the list quicker than I would have thought. And I have a feeling that happened with a lot of individuals. But it still managed to scrape 6 nominations, which is not bad. Nothing to sneeze at. Some of these are definitely shared by the Academy. They did nominate it for Best Picture. I believe they nominated Aaron Sorkin for his screenplay. And I want to say they did production design and costume design. I know we did.
I think it got editing as well, but not for us.
Yeah, I think it did have an editing Oscar nod, but no, we did not. Hear My Voice by Daniel Pemberton and Celeste Waite is nominated for original song.
Good song.
Just like it is a damn good song, just like it was at the Oscars. This was a strong contender for use of music in film, but it didn't end up making the cut for that. But the original category that it did get a nod for, I believe I actually had this individual at the top of my list, if I remember correctly. There are a couple of attorneys general I believe they were attorneys general depicted in the film. And John Doman was the one that I considered for the bit player cameo category, but the one played by Michael Keaton to me was almost the poster child for this category. He's only in, I think, 2 scenes. I think there's one scene in his office and then one scene where he's testifying in the courtroom. And he did a great job, and I just really enjoyed his performance. And so I definitely pushed him for a bit player cameo. I think this film might have a decent shot in several categories. The original song, we're straight up telling people that you can check out the songs without watching the film.
Except for one.
Most of them, yes. And this one does have a nice video that goes along with it, so it's a nice little short film, if you will. But it's an excellent film. I have a feeling that the political associations of Sorkin and some of the other, and the film itself, may turn off some of our number. And there probably will be a lot of people who just aren't interested in watching an historical courtroom drama. But for those who are, I think there'll be a decent shot in some of these.
It's got a fair chance. I like the film. It was a really good film. It's just got a lot of good competition.
Yeah.
Costume design especially, though it is cool to see the different suits of the time.
Yeah.
To me, see, that's the thing is, and it's only my opinion of it, because a lot of it is those little touches like that. But whenever I see that versus something that has a lot of intricacy when it comes to costumes and stuff like that, like a various, especially fantastical or even far back period pieces like, say, Emma, I always land on those as opposed to it's, they got some nice suits on. But yes, nice suits is a part of costume design.
Well, this one does cover people from a lot of different walks of life, so you do get to see a lot of different costumes in there, which is nice.
Well, let's talk The Turning. Another one that may not be seen by as many, but definitely is a good film. It is up for production design and editing. It is available on physical. It can be watched on Showtime or rented for $14.25. So, The Turning is a film. It's kind of funny that it came out around the same time as the second season of A Haunting. That thing is like Haunting of Bly Manor, I think it is. It's very similar. And essentially, you've got this person coming in as a babysitter or a governess for these 2 children in this mansion, and there's a lot of creepy stuff going on in this mansion. This is a ghost story. It is not disturbing as far as visually, not on the level of, say, Sebastian or Return to Splatter Farm or in that level, but it does have some disturbing imagery. It is, to me, a very good film. I do think that it did deserve its production design.
Yes.
Whenever you've got something a manner like that they have in the different rooms and all of that, just in general, it was quite the piece. Editing is debatable, but still it can hold up. I think it does have a shot, but depends on who sees it. It's much better than, I mean, I was going to see it anyway, but it was just kind of on my radar loosely. But then Dave threw it out there, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta see it.
Well, much like Tenet, this is one where I remember seeing tons of previews for it, and I was like, yeah, I'm not so sure about that. But I didn't realize until I sat down to watch it that it's a modernized update of Turn of the Screw, which is a pretty well-known story, although I have to admit I haven't actually read it myself. But I agree, the production design in this was pretty incredible. I don't think it has much shot at editing, but I think it has a good shot at the other category. And it's a pretty solid film. Again, one that I wasn't crazy about the end, but actually the ending kind of confused the shit out of me, to be honest. But one note I meant to mention at the start, and I totally forgot. This week, it's funny how these things have played out in the different weeks. This week, our list of 21 had 6 films I had not yet seen. I have now seen 5 of those films. I still have yet to see Welcome to Chechnya.
It's been available.
In the past week, I did watch Return to Splatter Farm, Sebastian's Unholy Flesh, The Turning, Violet, and The Witches. So I got quite a bit done this week, and so it was quite interesting.
So the next up is a short film category. One of my favorites for short film, which was Two Distant Strangers. This is going to be a hard one for me. Like I say, short film is a hard one for me this year. Two Distant Strangers really does address kind of the Black Lives Matter concept and mirrors Groundhog Day. So we kind of have this in Palm Springs sitting here.
Yeah, I know.
Similar thoughts and feel to. This one is very disturbing.
Yes,
I mean, you see the person die over and over again. Much like Palm Springs, but without the comedy. Well, there's a little bit of comedy.
There is some comedy,
like the picture he has of his dog on the wall. That painting he has. It's got some fun stuff to it. I liked it. It was really well done, but maybe a bit too political. Especially depending on the leanings of some individuals who would say that, who would look at, say, Black Lives Matter as a terrorist group, or look at the police officer as a good guy in this, or even look at it as the idea of saying, well, this is painting policemen as bad guys. I don't even look at it necessarily.
Paints that policeman as bad guy.
Yes. And again, I loved the concept of it because when you looked at this one, the guy wasn't trying to utilize violence. He never used violence. He debated it. They even had a gun there for him, but he never resorted to it. And he even said, no, I never will. And that is an amazing thing. Powerful film. I think anybody and everybody should watch it. It's on Netflix. It's a very high contender for me on short film. I just don't think it's going to do it.
I think it has a high shot, actually, because we had at least one other person who raved about this film. It won't be my pick, but it's not because I don't like it. I thought it was a really good film. It is one that you should probably, like, the basic gist of it is you have a young man who, after a one-night stand, has to go home. And or they are home and he has to go out and do something. I can't remember.
Got to get to his dog.
He has to get to his dog. That's what it is. Yes. Oh yes, he has to go home to get to his dog.
Like I say, that's why the painting is so funny.
And it's a very interesting in the way that it kind of like Palm Springs. It takes that concept and toys with it and plays with it and does new and interesting things with it. And yeah, it was quite interesting. So next up, speaking of quite interesting, but in a very different way, we have a film called Vampire Dad, which is a period piece set, I think, in the 60s, in that sort of Leave It to Beaver kind of household, if I remember correctly. Where basically Dad is a dentist, I believe. Yeah. And then the wife...
Psychiatrist.
Right. That's why he's a psychiatrist who you come to realize that's why he's targeted. But, we won't go too far into it because you want to have some enjoyment there. But he's a psychiatrist. His wife is the typical kind of... model wife. His daughter is like the all-American cheerleader type, whatever. Unbeknownst to her parents, she's got a boyfriend who's a little bit of a ne'er-do-well, if you will. And then there's the weird-ass, creepy mortician brother of the wife who... At the start of the film, the father is attacked on Halloween night and turned into a vampire. Luckily, his brother-in-law is a mortician and has good source of blood for him, and likes hanging out and having family around and what have you. They are desperate to keep the secret from the daughter. Needless to say, various things cause complications, and it gets kind of weird. I really this was, to me, a great example of taking a low budget and just running with it and having a great time. It's like campy acting. But even though it was clearly low budget, they were well cast. Very important point on the next film we'll be talking about. I liked the music. I liked the use of comic scenes for the cut scenes. You know, they were they had limited animation actually in this one, which I was very impressed on the budget that they even had any sort of animation. It was an intriguing movie, and I enjoyed it. Of all the low-budget films, this was one of the few or one of the ones that I got the most pure enjoyment out of.
Yeah, I think it was enjoyable. And you can get it physically, and you can watch it on Tubi. So
very cool.
One that only exists on physical, to my reckoning, and that's one that you can only get directly from the source, which I don't know. Only Dave knows, so you got to call Dave. Which is Violet, which would have probably done better if Dave hadn't kind of inverted his numbers.
Yeah.
But we did figure out, okay, let's not tank it entirely, because otherwise it wouldn't have shown up at all. So we went ahead and
No, it was going to get that one.
Okay, so it's up for Best Picture in Cinematography. So Violet has some similarities to Promising Young Woman.
Some.
And, you know, I Spit on Your Grave and things like that. It's about an individual that got, actually it was more about somebody who was from a snuff film, I believe it was. And they ended up going to get revenge for that.
Well, in her case, it was a rape film, but
she survived. Yeah,
but it was being aired on a site where snuff films and things like that were regular things.
So of course she is very much following this, and she's got, much like the character in Promising Young Woman, is pretty much dedicating her life to ending those people. But on top of that, she also kind of has that same, it's actually in a way is similar where how the love interest goes and how there's kind of an involvement there as well. But I'm not gonna ruin the twist there for those of you who want to see it. It's not overly gory, which I thought it was going to be because of how
got a couple
Dave
of rough
showed.
Scenes.
But it was reasonably done, reasonably acted for what it was there.
Mostly.
I think it could have been up for Best Low Budget, to tell you the truth.
It probably would have been.
I'm not really certain that Best Picture is going to be where it wins. In cinematography, to me, I feel like it's outclassed.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that the person who put it up thought so too, if that was how it got that. But still, it was all right. It was enjoyable enough.
It was all right, and I give it some props. It was an interesting story. It was decently written. It was decently produced. Dave claims that the person behind the film is very, very young, and I give them props for doing something like this at a young age.
5 years old.
Not that young. But I do say this. First of all, the lead actress, she was okay in her acting, but I have to say this movie had some of the worst voiceover work I have ever seen in a movie. Terrible voiceover work. And the casting was, the girl looks like she's like 6 years younger than the one playing her mother. And the guy who becomes her boyfriend looks the exact same age as his father, and his mother is clearly someone of roughly their age wearing makeup. So it's like, they really even if you have a limited budget, if you really want to tell a story with a family dynamic, you can go out and hire some older actors. It's simple.
Oh, yeah.
That was a major failing. If they were going for high camp or comedy or something like that, that'd be weird with the story they were telling. But if they were, the casting would not have been an issue. But with the drama they were trying to portray, it became an issue.
Psycho Ape, the casting was not an issue at all.
Yeah. So I'm going to say I think the movie should have, and probably does have, next to zero chance of winning either of these awards. But, you know.
It'll get at least one vote.
It will get at least one vote, probably.
So let's talk about Welcome to Chechnya, which is the one that Jacob has not seen yet.
I want to.
But, well, you'll have the opportunity.
Yeah.
I've watched it now twice because I watched it again mostly trying to get a copy to you last night late. But it is available on physical. I've debated it, and it is on HBO Max. It is up for documentary feature, and well deserved too. It's about Chechnya, of course, working to do their genocide of the gay population, and the efforts to try and evacuate these, because Putin is kind of in support of that, saying, well, there's no gays in Russia because they killed them all. So it's very dangerous to be gay in that area of the world. And these individuals work hard to try and not only evacuate them, but to try and fight for gay rights internationally while in these areas. It is a very compelling film. It has a lot of suspense to it. And it is worth a watch if you care at all about the plight. It just goes to show you how good we have it here, to where you can actually, just for using the wrong pronoun the first time, could actually be ostracized from a group here. But somebody who said that over in Russia would be executed. So, or actually possibly even raped then executed. So that's just an interesting dichotomy for the world today. It's we should be thankful that we have the opportunity to get offended for pronouns, or be able to say that, to have that opportunity.
Yeah,
it's definitely that way.
Good times. And this is, I should note, total, there are only 6 films left of the 84 that I need to see. This one, I think if I were to say right now, between now and Friday, I will make sure I see this one, All In, and Enter the Fat Dragon. Those are the ones that I can say yes. Now, last night I did watch Bad Boys, which is the first step towards seeing Bad Boys for Life sometime this week. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But so that would get me down to just 2 missing. So that's something.
Oh, wow.
And those, of course, would be Amityville Vibrator and In Search of Darkness.
Well,
so I'm doing good, actually. But anyway, one very short film that, if you can find it, is pretty easy enough to watch, is a film called White Eye, which, if I recall correctly, I believe was an Israeli film that was an Oscar nominee for live action short. It was part of that short film package that we were able to see, and that's how I saw it.
Only way you can see it, to my knowledge.
Probably. This is a film that, to be perfectly honest, I was underwhelmed by it.
There are a ton of documentaries about making this film.
Right. Well, my understanding is I didn't fully catch it because it's a short film. But it really either is or was edited to appear to be filmed in one take. So it's kind of like that 1917 vibe, which is kind of interesting. But it's basically about a dude whose bike is... trying to remember. I think his bike was stolen,
was stolen,
right?
And then he finds it later in possession of somebody else.
That's what it was. Yes, his bike is stolen. He finds it, and he demands satisfaction. And he will not back down. and it gets into some pretty dark territory, and it's a good film. I really did think it was good film. It just did not hit me as much as most of the films that was nominated
or
against.
The Present, which is also...
The Present was phenomenal. I just absolutely... this one did not hit me the way The Present did, but it's still a really good film. It's really worth a watch if you can track it down. I don't think it has a strong shot in this category, but you never know.
All right.
So any thoughts? Are you ready to move on?
Let's move on.
Okay. So next up, we have one of the ones I watched for the first time this week, Roald Dahl's The Witches.
Let me see if I can find the poster art for it while you talk.
Yeah, that's a good plan. So Roald Dahl, of course, wrote a book called The Witches that has already been nominated as a pretty, I think it's...
Yeah, that's one from that.
I'm thinking maybe that or that might be the ones he's thinking of.
But
it had a pretty solid, well, from what I hear, a pretty solid 1990 version. I don't know. But this version is the remake with a phenomenally weird and just plain phenomenal pedigree. It's directed by Robert Zemeckis, produced by Zemeckis, Guillermo del Toro, and Alfonso Cuarón, among other people, and written by Zemeckis, del Toro, and someone else. I can't remember who. So how's that for a combo of people? You got Alan Silvestri doing the score. You got Anne Hathaway, Octavia Spencer, voiceover work by Chris Rock. It was an interesting movie, but it was a weird hybrid, like a kid's movie that was dark and creepy and weird.
So,
it did have some phenomenal visuals.
Did you watch the original?
I have not seen the original. I have not read the book.
That also has
actually
one heck of a pedigree as well.
Okay.
And that one has... Okay, that one has the Jim Henson stuff involved.
Yes.
And the transformations are extremely disturbing.
Oh, very good. But this one, apparently, is this, I guess, HBO Max is where you would find it? Or
Yeah.
Okay, it's nominated for us for Best Poster or Cover Design, Cover Art. It's a pretty nice, we were just looking at the posters. There's 2 or 3. I'm not sure which one was officially submitted, but they're all pretty cool. The visual work in this overall was quite stunning, as you would expect from anything Del Toro's involved with, really. Parts of it were kind of creepy. The Hathaways, I think it's the High Queen Witch or whatever, has sort of a slit-mouthed woman look, kind of a Glasgow smile, if you will. It's kind of creepy, but kind of fun. You can actually see that in the poster. Anyway, honestly, I'm kind of stalling for time. My co-host has stepped out for a moment, but you get the idea. It's a good movie, interesting enough. And any thoughts on that one before you launch into yours?
What, The Witches?
Yeah.
I don't think it stands much of a shot, poster design.
Right.
To me, the cover designs are more impressive on the other things. Maybe not Amityville Vibrator, but, you know.
I thought nothing could beat that with you.
So, next up is one that...
could have gotten a poster or cover design nominee.
This one is a really good one, and it has quite a number of nominations, and that is The Wolfwalkers, which the people who were behind this had been Oscar loved, and of course was Best Animated Feature up for. And
Tom
to
Moore.
me, it didn't have a chance at winning, but darned if it wasn't a good film. And it's crappy that Apple kind of has the exclusiveness. If you don't have Apple Plus or Apple whatever, you cannot watch this.
Fire Stick.
I am hoping that they do a physical.
Yeah.
It would really make me mad if they decide not to. I might have to go the illegal route on that one because I would run a physical and not have to deal with Apple.
You know what would be really cool? If Apple goes to Criterion and Criterion actually puts this out.
Criterion could put this out as a trilogy set,
even though, yeah, because even though, and they could even do a quadrilogy and include The Breadwinner.
Yeah.
Even though they have not done crap for animation, I feel like this studio's work would be the kind of animation they might do. Maybe.
So, of course, it's up for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Bean for voice actor. Simon McBurney for voice actor. Honor Nifsi for voice actress. Ava Whitaker for voice actress. Bruno Calais for original score. And animation. I mean, these films, the score is spectacular for all of the films. I have not seen Song of the Sea yet.
Calais did the score for Song of the Sea and The Secret of Kells, and he also did Coraline. Yes, and he did the original song of the Sea, and he did some original songs for this one.
The animation is beautiful in the style, and the voice actresses are children. Who are playing children, and they do a spectacular job.
They do.
So that's an amazing. Of course, Sean Bean does well. Of course, Sean Bean. And of course, Simon McBurney also does a great job. He was the villain, wasn't he?
Yes.
So again, very
good
one.
Lord Protector, I think his name.
I think it was a great film. The environmental overtones might turn some people off, and the fact that it's a very hard one to access might also hurt its chances. But if enough people see it who are in the voting populace, it has a decent shot, if anything, for the voice acting. Right. I think it has a good one, and maybe even for the score.
It is beyond criminal that Calais has not won an Oscar. He's only been nominated once for original song. He's never been nominated for score. As beyond criminal. That needs to change. And I have to admit, I was less impressed by this score than I was by the other two, Song of the Sea and Kells, but still, Yeah. I do think this one does have a shot in the voice acting and the animation. It does have a shot. I'll be curious to see.
So, Wonder Woman 1984, which I know people have disagreed with me on this. It is available on physical, HBO Max, and rental for about $4. It is one of the latest, it was the latest up until Suicide Squad released, of the DC Universe film.
Suicide Squad, you gotta be very...
So, it's up for visual effects, production design, and costume design, which I think are very powerful in these categories. I think that they did an excellent job in all three of these. I think it's something that people overlook because so many people were underwhelmed by this film.
Yeah.
Because they were expecting the original Wonder Woman, which was an amazing film.
Yeah.
And they got an 80s film, essentially. And I didn't love the film, but I did like the film. I understand where they were coming from. And yes, if you look at why they wrote what they did, they really did take it from an 80s standpoint, not just because of the time period, but in the writing aspects as well. And they wrote it like a comic book of the period. Except for like maybe the cheetah stuff. But even the original cheetah, there's some similarities. Though I'm not sure that the actress choice is the best for this particular character, at least not with how they did it. It was still a fairly fun film. But visual effects, yes, the costume design was really cool. Wonder Woman's armor design at the end, that was really well done. And the effects that they used, really cool.
Now, part of this, for me, had to do with the fact that I saw it on an HD TV. And I don't know if it was necessarily an HD rip we were watching, but there was something off visually. There was something wonky about it.
I watched it 4K.
Yeah, I don't know if that's... But whatever the case, when I watched it, I did not get the feeling that the effects were that great. I thought they looked cheesy as hell. And it might just have been that maybe the screen, maybe it didn't sync up properly, or maybe, I don't know. I will agree the production design is pretty solid on this one. Costume design, yeah, I could see that. But I wasn't blown away by the effects. But again, it could have just been the screen. I don't know. Good film, disappointing film. Probably the most disappointing film of the year for me that I actually had hopes for. But it was still good. And, okay. The last one. I'm not even going to... I wanted to try and pretend that I could speak the... This was a Norwegian? It's a Norwegian film, isn't it?
Yes.
But the American title is Yes People. And it's sort of... I believe it was a stop-motion film, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of Wallace and Gromity.
So sort of a Wallace and Gromity kind of stop-motion film about an apartment complex and the people therein. And their lives, their day-to-day lives, some of which were a little bit mature in their activities. But I found this to be a very entertaining film. It was one of the more entertaining live-action, animated shorts that was actually up for an Oscar. This also was part of that big film bundle, the animated film bundle, which is how I saw it. This was one of my higher-rated animated shorts for the year. And I'm not really sure that it has a strong shot. I think it has a good shot, but I'm not sure that it has a great shot. But it is one that if people see it, I think they will enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's about getting people to see it, because the only way you're going to see it is in that animated bundle. And about how many people see the Netflix short animated feature, because I think that one has the best chance of winning.
Yes.
Well, that's it. We've covered all of them. So if you play these 4 back to back, you'll have in-depth looks at all of the nominees. So even if you don't see them, you'll at least be able to make an informed decision.
And it will probably take no more time than watching In Search of Darkness 2.
Yes, indeed. So with that being said, we'll see you at the awards.
Bye.